Pakistan's constitution guarantees freedom of religion or belief for all Pakistani citizens. Yet, as Mr. Fiegel has just told us, reality tells us a different story. Since 2014, the European Union has tried to help Pakistan improve its human rights record with trade incentives. A win-win proposal, in a sense, the privileged access to the EU market in exchange of the ratification and implementation of 27 international covenants to improve human rights and the rule of law. This mechanism is known as the GSP+, the Generalized Scheme of Preferences. From 2014 to 2022, Pakistan's exports to the EU almost doubled, from 8.3 billion euros to almost 15 billion euros. For 10 years, Pakistan has been the winner in this operation, and the EU has been the loser. Indeed, over the years, many parliamentary questions and resolutions have highlighted Pakistan's disregard for human rights and the lack of political will to prioritize its human rights record. By accepting de facto this situation and by failing to sanction Pakistan's non-implementation of the GSP+, the EU has misused the money of the EU taxpayers and has lost its credibility as a commercial power guided by human rights values. Indeed, the list of persistent, egregious human rights violations has remained unchanged for 10 years. One, the fabrication of blasphemy cases against Christians, Ahmadis, and other religious minorities. Two, the sentencing to heavy prison terms and even the death penalty on such blasphemy charges. Three, the impunity of false accusations, acts of violence and mob violence against members of minority religious communities, places of worship and communal buildings. Four, the controversial funding of schools in an environment of religious extremism. And five, the persistence of madrasa, religious schools, beacons of indoctrination and extremism, which are out of control of the state institutions, etc., etc. The 2021 single national curriculum in force in state schools has institutionalized religious bias, embedding Islamic teachings across core subjects and forcing non-Muslim students into an environment of indoctrination and exclusion. The curriculum in force in state schools drew strong criticisms from education experts and human rights defenders for its lack of inclusivity, the overemphasis on Islamic religious content at the expense of religious minorities, the subliminal ideology of Islamic supremacy, and poor pedagogy. Alarmingly, in the province of Punjab, which has a bit more than 50% of the total population of the country, extremist religious clerics now hold power over curricula in state schools, censoring content and restricting academic freedom. Example, in October 2023, Islamic clerics forced a college professor to publicly renounce teaching Charles Darwin's theory of evolution and being against Islamic law. A video showing his academic recounting was posted on social media and got viral. In May 2022, the year before, the car of that professor had already been attacked with a magnetic bomb, leaving him in a wheelchair for several months. Such serious incidents, orchestrated by extremist clerics and spread around in social media, clearly pursue the objective to terrorize any teacher who would decide to support Darwin's theory of evolution rather than the Islamic theory of creationism. This is what I would call inquisition. According to a report supported by several members of the European Parliament in Brussels, the money of European taxpayers of the 27 EU member states has been misused to finance such a questionable school education program in Pakistan. The amount is enormous, between 100 million and 150 million euros between 2016 and 2024. The question is, should European taxpayers finance a public education system, the implementation of which largely remains in the hands of extremist Muslim terrorists who terrorize broad-minded teachers and professors? Would European taxpayers and political leaders accept that their own state, finances Muslim faith-based schools at home, where creationism and only creationism will be taught? I think the answer is obvious, and the conclusion of the European Union should be, okay, let's stop financing Pakistan's education system as long as, of course, it is in conformity with international standards. But there is no such answer from the European Union. Maybe the various UN institutions financing school education in Pakistan should also strengthen their oversight to ensure that their financial assistance does not contribute directly or indirectly to religious indoctrination and Islamization. In Brussels, the chair of the Intergroup on Freedom of Religion or Belief, the Dutch member of the European Parliament, Bert-Jan Ruijsen, recently submitted a written question to the European Commission on this matter, wondering if the EU funding, and I quote him, is not being used in Islamic religious madrasas, unquote. In his answer, the EU Commissioner failed to reply to this concern, as well as the following questions of MEP Ruijsen that I was quoting at the time of quote, what mechanisms does the Commission have in place to determine which curricula have Islamic religious contents that seeps into general subjects in state schools to which non-Muslim children may be exposed? There was no answer from the European Commission. And what restrictive measures or sanctions does the EU have at its disposal for such cases? And again, there was no answer to its parliamentary question. And now we will have the opportunity to listen to that member of the European Parliament that we recently interviewed in Brussels and who was answering us about the questions that he had raised and that remain really unanswered.
Well, the answer was indeed very disappointing. What the Commission said, in essence, was, yes, we get money to the schools, for the education system, but we are not responsible for the content. That's the opinion of the Commission. But I see a big risk indeed that, at least you can say in an indirect way, we are subsidizing schools who teach to children, let's say, not to respect the other, but to hate the other. Supporting extremism and supporting discrimination. So yes, I have great concerns about that. I think that we have also to take that on board in the discussion about prolongation of GSP Plus status. And also, hopefully, we can also take that on board in the discussion about hopefully a new debate in the European Parliament, the plenary session, and the resolution.